Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 28 of Podfluxxx. Kevin Fulton, Ricky Reyes. Ricky, what's going on, bud?
Not much, just living the dream here in San Antonio. Nice, warm, sunny San Antonio.
Well, it's remember how we talked a few weeks ago about how it just goes from melt to freeze here?
Yeah.
We're at the early stages of freeze,
Ugh.
and
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to get gnarly up here this winter.
Yeah.
Last winter we didn't get very much snow, but it was cold as shit. So I
Yeah.
I can deal all day long. I'll take cold as shit all day long
Uh,
as long as I don't have to deal with snow.
Snow.
Once the snow hits, it's just like you hope for every drift that you hit to be the last one. So
No,
you know, in
not
in
missing that.
yeah. Anyway, we've got a pretty big week kind of here in wrestling. Uh, we're gonna start off, Ricky, with a little bit of SmackDown, right? Is that what we
Yeah.
decided we were doing, or am I blowing
Yeah.
this right out the gate?
No.
SmackDown is on a roll. Like it's got the best television ratings that wrestling has had in years. Uh, all across the board, all companies, promotions, TV shows, stuff like that. And what do it's on a pretty hot streak. It seems to only be getting bigger or more consistent, more eyeballs. They're doing bigger in the key demo. And what do you attribute that to?
Just interesting characters and storylines, I think the characters overall though is really carrying. I mean, it doesn't hurt obviously to have John Cena back. Needless to say, and I think we all can agree that this is his last kind of go around he's making here. Like this is like without calling it his final loop
Right,
around.
final
I think
run.
I think everyone's taking it as that until he does the very sporadic pop-ins from here and there, which I'm sure he'll do forever. But right now, I think everyone's just getting in there to see him for the last time and do his thing. But of course, with WWE, they're doing it all the right way. They're letting the current top guys, rub up against him. He's getting in there saying that he doesn't deserve title matches, like other guys deserve title matches. And they're just doing everything the correct way. And they have good storylines there. Everyone's kind of firing on all cylinders right now as far as like popularity goes, and they're seem to be putting all the right pieces in the right spots. I feel from
Mhm.
what I gathered from like kind of just checking social media and seeing who's doing what. Um, but yeah, they're kind of crushing it right now, especially on when you look at ticket sales for their venues. Like
Yes.
they're doing like on average, it looked like they're doing anywhere from 3 to 5,000 more than their most recent in the past few years visiting, each venue. So a lot of their venues are either completely selling out and opening spaces up, or very close to selling out, and the sellout is thousands more than it was previous. Even when they
Right.
had like Monday Night Raw there like 3 or 4 years ago, there's still like if that was a 9,000 seat building that did 9,000 for Raw, they're doing 13 and 14 for SmackDown. You know, at different
Right.
venues, at various venues. So uh, they always say, like when the house show business is doing well, obviously it's because your TV's good, right? So it's uh it's a clear cut, that the TV's really strong. So
I don't have
and it's
any
staying
like
strong. It's consistently strong. It's not like oh man, SmackDown was fire last week, and then it's going to be a dud for the next until Royal Rumble. That's not the case. That they've been consistent shows.
Do you think that when they announced the amount of dates they were getting with John Cena, they did that uh, in contingency with how long they knew they were giving Roman off? So it was Roman was going to be off an extended amount of time
Yeah.
here. They knew they had it coming up. Let's see what we can pull out. Or do you think it just worked out? It was kismet. John was coming in for this amount of time. Roman was taking this much time off of TV. They didn't really need to have him there when they had Cena there. Do you think the two had anything to do with each other? Or you think it was good timing? I think it worked out, pretty good. That without, I mean, you didn't always have Roman on TV week to week anyway.
Right.
You had him one week, 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
When John came in this time around, it seemed like you can get 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. You didn't need Roman on TV. You didn't have Roman on TV, but you had John Cena there. Do you think that was a happy coincidence, or do you think that was good planning?
I mean, only they would know, if it was planned out that way, or it just came up that way, or they created it to become that way. Because it could have been, hey, we got John, and then Roman could have been like, all right, I'm gonna chill at the house for a little bit, and it all works out. Also, we all know, from over the years and being within the business, like that John's just a workhorse for WWE, period. So I'm sure he's probably looking at it like, well, I'm not really doing much. I can get back into this wrestling thing and have some fun again, doing this. I mean, he's doing this with so much less pressure than he's ever had, right? Because look at the hat he wore before in WWE, and now he can just literally come in and say, I can do tag matches, I can have fun, and he knows that he left it in good hands and that it's okay, everything is moving along just fine. It's kind of like a victory lap for him, I feel like. This go round, where he gets to play, the legend returns for one last hurrah.
Well, he's still youthful enough to
Right. Well, he can still do it. Well, he can still do it and still have fun with the top guys and not just being there, being humiliated or whatever, So yeah, I think all of the above, but I think either way, WWE is doing it the best way possible, which is the smartest way, to do all this. They're treating Roman like almost Brock, where he's an attraction now. I would like to see more Roman, but I'm also like, I look forward to seeing it, when he pops back in. Because the reactions are a little bit bigger. His interaction with everything that he's doing, it's just like it's so good. I mean, it's money, it's money all the way around. I look forward to seeing what Christian's doing, and I look forward to seeing what Roman's doing.
Yeah.
And I like those interactions. They're the best, So of course, WWE does it correctly, and it's just capitalizing the best way possible.
Now, I don't have any, statistics or numbers in front of me, right? But we are being led to believe it's not false fact, it's not false or rumor or innuendo, but we're being informed that WWE is currently doing the best house show business it's probably done since late 2000s, I'd imagine, when Cena first really got hot. Do you attribute all of that to consistent good TV, or is it people that guys on TV that people care about all across the board? Like, you got to know when you're pulling up to a house show, when you're buying a ticket for a house show, you're not getting Roman Reigns or John Cena every night.
Right.
but the people are still coming out in mass, more than they have in years. Is that the whole product, or what do you think that is? Because I can sit here and watch on a Friday night and go, man, this Bloodline shit, this Roman Reigns thing is really good, man. This Eli Drake, L.A. Knight, like, I don't know though if that's going to necessarily make me buy a ticket when they come around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do you think that they've built enough equity with the guys that they present on TV in a higher spot that you don't necessarily need to have, as long as you've got Cody or LA Knight, or you've got something at the house show that's from TV that people maybe care about, they're going to come out? Or you think they're going out star based?
No, I think it's consistent television for the past couple years. I mean, SmackDown is always held pretty strong. Like once they went to Fox, I felt like ever since that first Fox like run that they had, SmackDown just became more and more the Abe show as opposed to Raw. Now I think fans just see Raw as the B show, which is, crazy to think, now, like guys like us, like always Monday Night Raw first, and then
Right.
oh yeah, and there's SmackDown.
And if we end up watching anything else, it was
check to see what SmackDown's doing. But I think that the brand itself is just so strong and has been presented so well that SmackDown is the selling point, and it's just consistently good. That was kind of always, I felt like SmackDown was always the wrestling show for the wrestlers. Like when you always look back at the early SmackDowns, they had those crazy like 6 or 8 man tags with like Brock, Team Angle, Eddie Guerrero and Chavo and Edge and Rey, and and they'd go like 25 minutes, and it was just like a constant flow of amazing wrestling matches all the way through.
Right. And the roster, if you think about it, back then they used to have all like the wrestlers, and then all the giants were on that roster.
Yeah.
Right. And you had Benoit throwing around Albert.
A-Train. And exactly. Yeah. And it was those types of matches that were like 6-8 minute nonstop, fireworks, and then it would be another match right after that. It'd be Edge versus Rey, or Angle versus Rey, or Edge, and it was just so many good nonstop matches. But I mean, that's what it reminds me of now when I read about what's going on, or I see clips of matches and stuff, and then it just seems like it's just everybody from top to bottom on SmackDown is just on point right now.
I just want to take a side moment here and say, as we're recording, I've got last night's Collision on the big screen here.
You're colliding right now?
I'm colliding as we speak. And Bryan Danielson in cornrows is having a hell of a match with Andrade. So if you see me kind of looking up,
that's probably good. Yeah,
because they're dazzling. But anyway, now I have another WWE related question, right? Because we say all this really, really good stuff about SmackDown. How can one company have one show be so good, and then the other show I don't want to say bad. I mean, it's bad, right? But like the wrestling isn't sloppy. Like guys aren't killing each other, but it's just like the cleanest, most boring shit I've ever seen in my life. Like it's like looking at like, it's like a painting, a barn, flowers, maybe a fence. It's really nice looking.
Right.
but it's boring. Like it hangs on the wall of an elevator.
Yeah.
How can the two things be so different?
I always imagined they do that on purpose. Not saying that they're doing Raw bad on purpose, but I feel like they do different on purpose.
Yeah. Okay, I
It
can see
just
that.
I feel like SmackDown is supposed to be the more upbeat, action packed 2 hours, go, go, go. And I feel like Raw is like a bad talk show that just seems to drag on forever and ever, or like bad skits. I feel like one is more, let's get them in the ring and show what we can do. And then I feel like on the other side, they're like, oh, well, we're the best talkers in the business. Let's talk them to death, you know? And I don't know, like that's how I imagine there, because yeah, you're right. How does one company have a complete polar opposite type feel of the same, basically the same product, right?
Yeah.
They're giving us chocolate on Friday, but they're giving us very vanilla on Monday. But
Super
it's the
vanilla.
but it's the same. We're getting it from the same freezer, you know. It just, I don't know. It is weird. It is bizarre to me. I've always felt that. I've always felt like uh, that's their covering all bases. Let's get everybody. Let's get Raw. We'll talk them in, and then SmackDown will show them what we can do once they do get in the door. That's how I feel. I mean, obviously we don't work there, so it's hard to gauge what their mindset is. But when you watch the shows with an educated eye, you can see one does this and one does that. I can only imagine that somebody pulling the strings in the back is saying, "Look, this show is this, and this show is that. So write accordingly." That's the
Like
only thing I can think.
they know that they've got the two parts of the fan base and they make each show to cater to each one.
That's the only thing I can think. They think they have the best talkers and characters, and then they think they have the best wrestlers, right?
Right.
Because I feel like that's what the two shows are. I don't know, like I don't watch it enough to do that, but that's kind of how it's always felt for years, you know. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Uh it's yeah, totally. I'm also I'm tracking something for later here, but okay. So that was really the SmackDown. That was Raw. Do you think if they do, I'd imagine at some point they're going to do some type of superstar shakeup or new draft or something, right? Who
I
who
guess.
would you see going? Do you think that one show would benefit from having somebody else on it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to shuffle around a couple of top guys, if you want to start getting people to pay attention to Raw the way they're paying attention to SmackDown, you move in LA Knight or you move in the Bloodline over, or
I mean, yeah, yes, that's what you would need to do.
you're
Oh,
talking a difference of a million people basically watching the show.
right. But does, I mean, initially, yeah, you would be like, oh wow, this is cool, right? But do they
But then
fall
Raw's
into
going
that?
to do Raw.
Yeah, does it fall into 2 months later it's the same boring crap, or um I feel like the overall layout of each show is different. I think
Right.
I think the mindset of the creation of the shows are different. That's just what I think. Um, like I said, if you move somebody exciting from SmackDown to Raw, regardless of how good they are or how over they are, they fall into that flow of what they're doing there, and then they could become boring because the show is boring. I don't know. I don't think guys have, like I said before about a couple things, they don't have enough. Maybe I don't know if it's confidence in themselves, or are they allowed to? Or, they don't go out there and say, "Hey, I'm LA Knight and I wouldn't do that bullshit." Like, here's what I want to do, and then do they just go out there and do it, or does it fall on deaf ears, or does nobody just say nothing and kind of move along and, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do? So,
Well, speaking of moving along, we're gonna move along here, and also as we record, last night was the 2023 edition of Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. And they were live from the Cicero Stadium in Chicago.
yeah.
Right? We got to make sure Chicago gets serviced here by the by the wrestling world, and they drew 2,500 people.
Oh,
Apparently,
I was curious on what was that. It sold out early.
see, I don't have any information on how it's sold out, but they're they realize what they are and they're picking the proper venues when they run
Right.
them.
Right.
Right? And they had apparently 8 matches here. But at the end of the night, do you want to go through any of the card at all?
Not really. No. That wasn't nearly as important as other stuff.
So, what I want to talk about is at the end of the night, apparently Scott D'Amore came out
Right.
and announced that in January of the upcoming year, 2024, that at the I believe it's going to be Hard to Kill pay-per-view. First of all, what a fantastic title of a show for this company, right?
Right.
Because you got to think now. Listen, I don't know if anybody really realizes, but they just passed like a 21-year mark,
Yes.
right? Which has got to make them like the second longest running, quote unquote, big promotion,
Right.
and promotion with money behind them
Right.
in the country. Like, what's the Jesus Christ, wouldn't it? ECWA's been around forever.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor's been around about the same time, but technically, have they PWG? There are places that have been around
Yeah.
forever, but this place has basically been on TV since its inception in some form or another. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm ranting, but they've announced that Hard to Kill in January 2024 that they will be rebranding back to TNA Wrestling. Good move, bad move? What do you think?
What I wonder more than what I'm thinking is, what does that mean? Are they going to be, is there a move happening? Like, or are you just rebranding for the sake of it? And what's changing exactly? Like, what are they going to do better? Because they've been having, for the past couple years, consistently really good wrestling matches on shows, really from top to bottom.
Right.
And it's just unfortunately nobody's really cared, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And which is frustrating. It's, as a wrestler, it's frustrating to be in a locker room and know that you're putting out quality. I think we know that, and nobody's kind of giving you your flowers about it, and especially when they've been doing it for so consistently. Are they getting a better TV time? Are they getting a better, what's causing the TNA brand change, I guess? Exactly. Like what is it for? Is it in hopes that people will get more eyeballs on it? Is that what it's for? I'd like to know more about why.
In my mind, right, they had the most notoriety
Right.
when they were TNA wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, they had their biggest audience.
Yeah.
They were most successful as TNA wrestling. And once they rebranded to Impact Wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Like almost immediately they lost TV.
Yeah.
These things are not mutually exclusive. They didn't happen
Right.
because, right? But they lost TV, and then they decided they were also Global Force Wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And then they were being broadcast only on Twitch, and then Billy Corgan bought in an Anthem, or somebody tried to screw him, and there was a lawsuit. So the whole time they've been Impact Wrestling,
Yeah.
I just feel like it was weighed down by baggage outside of the ring.
Right.
So I feel like, to go back to TNA wrestling, some lapsed fan who hasn't paid attention in 10 years is
Right.
going to be scrolling through Twitter or through TV one day, and he's going to see TNA wrestling, and he's going to go, "Oh man, that was that shit I used to watch with Chris Daniels and AJ Styles and Sonny Siaki. Let me put that on." And yeah, that's right. I said Sonny Siaki.
Yeah, you did.
And I might be the only person to have said Sonny Siaki inside the last 8 years. But and they might go, "Oh shit, let me put that on."
Right.
Like, they might grab some nostalgia off it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Is it something that they're doing? Because if you go down their roster, and I don't have their roster page in front of me per se, but I do have the results from last night's show, and just looking through it, seeing Frankie Kazarian, Eric Young, Bully Ray, Johnny Swinger, Kenny King, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin. These were people that were, or even Rhino, like synonymous with Impact Wrestling when it was TNA.
Yeah.
So are we maybe looking at an angle of, the old school TNA versus the Impact Wrestling roster? Are they doing, we have a New Blood and a Millionaires Club kind of a thing going here? Or are they just, hearkening back to their tradition, because obviously being branded as Impact Wrestling has been a black eye and doesn't work for them?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, was what is it for? I could see, well, when they went to Impact, the claim was there was like a TNA LOL type of feel to TNA, because TNA was dead on arrival since it started, right? So it was always going out of business. Like, I mean, I was in Ring of Honor when they were saying the same thing about Ring of Honor, like it's going out of business. And here they both are still alive and well. So I don't know. I don't know if it's because of that, or maybe they want to make some moves, and next year, maybe 2024 is something for them, and where they're thinking, okay, let's start the year off, get as much interest as we can, so these guys and girls that are killing themselves can get some flowers here and there, and then let's try to move into something like, are they gonna do more business with New Japan? Are they going to pop up on AEW? Because I mean, let's face it, Tony Khan, he is always seems to be up for, at least open to the possibilities, or possibly even an NWA, because they just popped into they just did a deal with CW, I guess.
Licensing, yeah.
Yeah. So is that an option? I mean,
yeah, and they're licensing, not to cut you off here, but they're starting to license out other promotions too.
And there you go.
I just saw, I forgot what it was, but something just popped up as an NWA promotion.
Yeah,
I think it
in
was one
Cleveland.
that EC3 was working with a lot.
Yeah, it was in Cleveland somewhere.
Right.
Well, they're going to start doing the quote unquote like territorial type of idea of branding independents as NWAs and then bringing it all to surround Billy Corgan, right?
Yeah.
Billy Corgan's group.
Now, you and I have seen this movie before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we also know how it ends. But
Right.
you know, as
It's
long as you got people out there willing to pay you to say that they're an NWA, I guess, you know,
that's what
you
it
got to
is,
make
right?
your money somewhere.
Well, if it's done right, if I've always liked the idea because it helps other independents.
Yeah.
If done right, meaning advertising those independents on your TV show, advertising their shows as NWA shows and giving them publicity and their wrestlers, yeah, for sure.
Right.
You know,
There's
it's
also
always a great idea, but then push come to shove, it turns into more of a headache than anything, and then Corgan will just be like, well, fuck them, you know, like I don't have to deal with this shit, you know, I'll just go back to doing my own thing, you know, and then that's what it turns into.
right, because that's what has happened every time.
Every
You know,
time.
and you also got to like, you know, you can't let every shindy out there buy
Right.
an
Right.
NWA license.
That's yeah, exactly.
So you got to watch who you're letting, you know, represent you. But I mean, that's something. All imagine if it NWA TNA, and that could be the TV deal that Billy Corgan's been talking about because they're on TV.
Right.
I don't know where. I mean, I do know where. It doesn't exist on my with my provider, but they
Right.
are on television. They are having what's going to be or what is kind of like the best in-ring product.
Yeah.
Intergender wrestling doesn't really do it for me. They do a lot of that there. Well, you know, I guess more power to them. But I mean, I'm interested like hey, listen, if this is a rebranding and they are starting to turn around their business again with a guy like Dolph Ziggler out there coming up soon, you know, like you know, allegedly you got CM Punk floating around out in the free agent market at some point. This could all if they can put together a TV, a rebranding, and grab like a top guy like that, it could change their entire future.
Yep. That's it's interesting because I just feel like there's more to this story than obviously we're gonna find out, especially right off the bat, right? It's gonna be very, hey, we're doing this. I just feel like there's got to be more to it. They're not just doing this just because. Like there's a plan, there's a plan in motion, and we'll find out more later. But they have been having great shows. They flirt with the idea, or at least put out the idea that they have the money to get a guy like CM Punk,
Right.
which is saying a lot. You know, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. But like you said, like a Dolph Ziggler or Shelton Benjamin or, you know, even Mustafa Ali type thing, like those could all move the needle for them in a big way if you can wait until January's show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, hey man, you know, we're gonna do this thing and we're gonna bring you in and you're gonna be the face of this thing, and we're off to the Kurt Angle era of TNA with a major star, and that was good for them for years, you know.
Yep.
And did big business for them because it legitimized them, you know, and they needed it.
And I think you know, if social media was a tool the way it was like it is now, the way it was then,
Right.
You know, Kurt Angle being there,
Yes.
it wouldn't have been. You kind of only knew about it if you were
Right.
already in the bubble
Right.
or happened to pass by it.
Mhm.
It'll be in everybody's news feed at some point or another.
Yep.
It will mean more now
Right.
than it
Right.
did. But
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit here, and I want to talk about AEW. You just mentioned moving the needle. I don't know how much it actually moved the needle. I didn't see any ratings or anything. But recently, AEW brought in Mystico. I don't know if he's going to be working there on some type of regular or semi-regular basis. They brought him in. He worked with a guy you used to know, some kid named Rocky Romero. Is that
No
it?
idea.
Ever heard
No.
of him?
Mm-mm.
No. But anyway, he's some upstart, overnight success, if you will.
We have wide-eyed rookie.
Yeah, bushy tailed, ready to go, young kid, a lot of potential, big upside.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him. You might know a little more. What'd you think?
Well, the match was, if any wrestlers watch this or want to see how Lucha's done correctly, that what they did is real Lucha Libre style wrestling. Uh, and it was basically a big shine spot for Mystico. I believe some sort of working relationship was worked out that night, because one of the office people from CMLL was there at the show, and I think they taped that Wednesday in Houston or near Houston.
Okay, hang on. Let me cut in real quick before we get too far. Um, when you say Lucha done right,
Right.
okay, I obviously don't know very much about Lucha. A lot of American fans think they know about Lucha. They think what they see on TV in America is,
Right.
when they see the Mexican guys out there doing spots that they're doing Lucha. Can you kind of explain a little bit the right way and the what's wrong with what we normally see and the right way there is to do Lucha? Because I don't want
Okay.
that to get lost on people
Right.
here while we're talking about it.
Right. So Lucha is like salsa dancing, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a rhythm and a flow to it. You know, it's like any good dance. There's there's like there's like these flows that happen. With bad lucha, you'll just see choppy movements in a big series of a spot,
Right.
which one thing gets to the next, gets to the next, gets to the next. With the way they did the match, and they did the wrestling like the chain wrestling and the up and the down of it, there's a flow to it. Everything has a reason, and one thing leads to the next, perfectly. Meaning it intensifies the right way. You're not stabbing somebody after you shot them in the head. In
Right.
other words, right? So
Right.
like how we would make sense of our matches on a comeback, right? Uh, leading to that big point where you're going to hit that cover finally was at the highest point of that ending of that spot or whatever. So that's how good lucha is done. There's a flow to it. There's a reasoning for everything where, once you start hitting the ropes, that starts to make sense on where you're going and where it's leading to. So
And
where
there's a reason why they used Rocky for this.
yes, that's that was exactly why I texted you. Lucha done right
Right.
was because it's not two flyers fighting each other for the air. There's a base. There's a guy ripping a mask off. There's a guy just beating the shit out of somebody, wanting you to see the guy in the mask make his comeback, wanting to see the guy in the mask hit some high impact dive onto him, fire up the crowd, get excited again, and get ready to see the big finale, you know. So yeah, like there's, I mean, a perfect example that anyone can compare to would be Tiger Mask versus Dynamite Kid, right? Like Dynamite's aerial assault was different from Tiger Mask, you know. His was like a straight ahead torpedo style attack, and then Tiger Mask was more spectacular, right? It was a running moonsault that when we weren't used to seeing that, you know, or it was a run up the ropes and a backflip, and then there was that stare by Dynamite, like, what the fuck was that, you know, type of thing. Like he's reacting to what's happening in the ring, which infuriates him, causes them to beat the shit out of him, and then Tiger Mask starts hitting spectacular moves at the end, you know, and then off we go to the races. So like this was basically that, you know, and of course, I mean, Rocky pound for pound, you know, like TJP pound for pound, you know, these guys are so far above anybody else, you know, with the exception of a handful of wrestlers on the planet that can do those style of matches and then the next day do the other side of the spectrum, like the next day, you know, and without it blinking an eye, you know, and that's what I used to tell guys all the time in seminars and training and everything. Learn everything, not just the moves, but why they do the moves, because, and it goes even more now than it did, you know, back in 2012 when we were doing it, but it goes more now for them where you don't know who's going to be in the locker room and you don't know when you're going to get an opportunity to wrestle a top guy in a promotion, you know, and he has a completely different style than yours. What are you going to tell him? No, man, I don't do that stuff. I mean, you don't say that, you know. You got to be able to at least follow their flow and then mix your stuff in, and so it doesn't look out of place, and it doesn't look awkward. Like the transitions don't look weird from one style to the next. And that's what like I learned from Negro Casas was I was trying to do the Lucha stuff when I first got to CMLL, and he said, no offense, but you can't do Lucha better than Volador Jr. Like, just do your stuff. That's what's better than him. And then he does his stuff. That's what's better than you. And it just blew my mind. I was like, holy shit. So it was okay to say, I don't want to do a head scissors. I don't want to do this off the top rope. I don't want to do these. That's not me. Like, I'll do this and then you do yours, you know, and then you start to find how to go in and out of those things and how to make it all kind of work together. Ultimately, like when me and Rocky first started training, we started training Lucha Libre. Like that's what we started with. So the rolls, the whips, the movements that some people don't really understand, like the tackle where the guy doesn't bump, right? But he just kind of backs up. Like that's a whole thing that starts something big, you know, like the bypass. People just do the bypass. They don't really know why they're doing the bypass, right? But the bypass is you getting out of your opponent's way, shucking him forward, and then something big is going to come off here that's going to start to a big series. You know,
they do the same thing with the grab the guy's hands and then run up the ropes.
Right. So that's a whole thing. As a heel, I throw a wild one. The babyface ducks. He chops me. I go to overhand chop him. He catches my hand. Mm-hmm. Right. When he catches my hand, he gives me another chop. When I take that chop, I take a step back with my left foot, and you see the turnbuckle behind me. Then he runs up the turn. See, all this stuff is for a reason.
But you wouldn't know it today because people just grab a hand
and then run
up the ropes, and then somebody stands there like an asshole and lets them bounce around.
Right. And that's another thing is they've overkilled that. It's usually a hop up, boom, and then something. Now they're like hop, jump, dance, you know, pull my dick out, you know, flip over. Backwards. Right. Yeah. Sit on my ass, fall, sloppy roll out of the tangled up in the ropes. Let me try to get out of the ring because I'm waiting for the next dive. It's all a big clusterfuck now. But all this stuff is supposed to make sense if you studied it the right way, which is what I did, and went to Mexico and learned from a legend, on why this stuff happens. Because that's all I did was, because I went over there with the mindset of like, I was training with Mr. Inoki at the time, so I was like, well, Lucha doesn't make sense to me.
This shit's wrong.
Yeah, you guys are doing it all backwards. Let me tell you why. Then they would say, well, here's why we do it this way. We do it because this happens and that leads to this leads to that. And then I'm sitting there with my mouth open like, wow, now I'm watching it and it all made perfect sense to me. And I'm like, no, the psychology's there.
Yep.
The fans now, they just see so much of this crap in a bad way that it doesn't make any sense to them. Mm-hmm. So long-winded answer, is what I'm giving you, but it's all for a reason and a purpose why they had Rocky and Mystico work. Another thing was, when this all came about, it was big news in Mexico because AAA had been doing a little bit of business with AEW, and there's no secret, like AAA and CMLL are not supposed to do matches with each other in any way. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when TJP got fired from WWE, he said the first person that called him was Conan. But TJP knew he was going back to New Japan, and he's like, I can't go to AAA.
Because New Japan has a relationship with CMLL.
With CMLL. And that's a very long relationship that they've had. So he knew that if he went and did all these dates in AAA, he would not be able to go back to New Japan. So there was a big news about will All Japan or will AAA and CMLL have to work together? And the answer is no. As long as they don't do matches with each other, with the guys that work for those promotions, that's the thing, So, I mean, AEW has enough TV time to give two lucha companies. Obviously, the problem is going to become when AEW guys have to get in the ring with CMLL guys,
right?
And then that's when it's going to get ugly looking. And I can guarantee you, nobody's there besides Rocky and TJP that can explain how to gel their stuff with the lucha stuff and make it look like it's an actual wrestling match of two people trying to outbest each other, or however you want to call it. But
sounds like they might need a coach down there.
Yeah, they need more than a coach.
Do you think we shit talked them too much to get you a job, or?
I'm okay.
I'm good.
The whole idea is, it was a great match. It was one match. My thing is, the next thing you do with CMLL is bring in maybe a tag match of just their four guys and let them show more, right? Now you give him a tag match with Mystico in it and let him shine with his guys, right?
Right.
But eventually we all know they're going to ruin it. And in a few months, Miro's going to go in there and spear them all. And then we're back to WCW against NWO, right?
I don't even mind that. And I'm just happy that because of the way the relationships all shake out here, yeah, I'm not going to have to sit through Mystico versus Penta.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Right. So that to me is exciting. Let me ask you a question. I know it was only one match, and I mean, I already know what the answer is going to be. So I guess it's more of a rhetorical question. How come Mystico couldn't work out in WWE?
Oh, that's easy. He wanted them to adapt to him, and they wanted vice versa. I was there when he was there.
Right.
I was doing darks for WWE for like a couple years. And I remember when Cesaro worked on a house show in Allentown. I was in Wilkes-Barre or whatever. Uh, and I said, why is Mystico all by himself? And then I remember Cesaro kind of rolling his eyes and he's like, he doesn't make it easy for people to like him. And I was like, oh, really? And I was like, dude, he's like the biggest star since El Santo in Mexico City. Like, what do you mean? And he was just like, he keeps to himself on purpose. He doesn't trust anybody because he had a couple botches on TV. So he thinks everybody sucks. He just didn't want, at the time, this was what, 06, maybe 07. He did not want to adapt to a WWE style. He wanted everyone that worked him to learn his stuff and do it right,
They
and
didn't
that
really
was
have anybody there at the time that could do.
absolutely. They had Brian and Cesaro, and that what I'm saying about Cesaro is he said, "Well, I worked him on the Pennsylvania loop," and he goes, "By the time we got to Allentown, he trusted me." He goes, and we tore the fucking house down, and he was like, because Cesaro could do all that stuff. And he goes, then they put him with Brian, and it was so. The problem with Brian at the time was he was not a top guy yet. He was just regular Brian Danielson, maroon and white. I don't even think he won the world title yet. So and then he would have solid matches with Brian, Tyson Kidd, Cesaro. These are all mid card, right? Mid card guys, but here's a guy who came in and I think he teamed with John Cena's first night, right? Or something like that, and on Raw. So, it was a I'm sure he's a different guy now. But now he has that kind of pull, or now the business has changed to where it's not just WWE and then that's it in the US, right? So now there's more international guys in AEW, and they have the working relationships with other companies. So, he got to have that match. Now he's still maybe now more so than ever, he's still stuck in his ways, right? Because now he's older. So, but now, like I said, maybe they work something out and they'll say, okay, cool. Like you can have Mystico, but Mystico needs Averno on the other side of the ring with him, which is probably his best base and his, and a top guy and CMLL to work against him, and he'll look like $1 million, and it's easier now. But back then you had to think they stuck Mystico in there with The Miz and Alex Riley. That was his first match. And he tried to do the head scissor, double head scissor thing to them, and they both messed it up. And what are you going to do? I mean, they can't do regular wrestling right, let alone classic lucha libre style wrestling. So that's why it was bad when he was there. And I think this was his way of saying, no, this is what you were supposed to get, but you never did in WWE.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not getting it, things seem to be getting worse as far as attendance goes for AEW. We're at the AEW portion of the program here. We left them alone for 50 minutes, okay? And we're not going to spend a lot of time murdering them because this is going to be simple.
Right.
But basically, I saw a picture of Edge standing in front of a third full building with a microphone in the middle of a ring, and I immediately felt bad.
Yeah.
I do not know Edge. I have no reason to feel bad for him. But this is a guy who really is a high level superstar, and he's out there in front of no one. Right?
Yep.
And apparently, if you believe the rumors or not, I saw something online. Apparently, it took 2 weeks for them to piss off Adam Copeland. That Ricky Stark said something in a promo
Okay.
that upset him, and he's already annoyed. But what I really want to know here is, where did they go wrong?
Well, they went wrong in the beginning with the wrong people in charge.
Yes, but they were filling their buildings.
Were they though?
Did just nobody notice that the buildings were half empty, or?
Well, the whole thing about that first time round or that first year was they wanted to see something new.
Right.
And then once they saw what it was, there was no eagerness to come back. There's nothing, they gave them nothing to want to come back for. I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, if another billionaire started a third league, right? And had working relationships with every international group possible. Let's say Jeff Jarrett found $10 billion under his pillow, and then he decided, I know everybody.
Jeff Jarrett he gets lucky and finds another angel.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
And then he goes around for a year and does Global Force and has AAA and CMLL and New Japan all on the shows the first year. You know, of course it's going to sell out the first few times. But I mean, it's clear now, like how it doesn't get any clearer. How do you not grasp they don't know what they're doing? They're not doing pro wrestling correctly. You can go back to, like, I listened to Dutch Mantel's podcast on his, and he talks about the stories, how they did in Memphis every Monday night. It was at least 10,000 people because they booked the show for the next show, just like we did. You know, we never tried to finish big angles. If we did, we had something underneath that was going to be the big angle for the next run, you know, for the next show. And we didn't overcomplicate things, you know, one or two things. That's it. This guy hates that guy. This girl hates that girl, you know, and so forth and so forth. And we did it for years, you know, and it's not that hard. Their problem over there is the people in charge don't want to hear that they're doing it wrong. And if you tell them that, you can't play with their toys anymore, so you have to leave. They kick you out of the sandbox, right? This is their sandbox, and this is what they're doing. We know what they're doing wrong. The fans are, like, their wrestling fans now are just down to the very hardcore that just follow them for them. Not even follow them for a good wrestling product, because the good wrestling product is on Friday nights now. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's the one that's moving the needle and is the crown jewel to that whole endeavor thing, you know, is SmackDown. So these guys, they just don't know what they're doing, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Anyone that benefits from this is going to be Impact, because eventually more guys like Frankie Kazarian are going to come back over to Impact, and he's probably got a couple guys' ears and said, hey, it don't suck here at least. So if they can get you something and you can come have fun and then still do whatever you want to do, you can't argue with that type of schedule.
I'm not baffled. I'm not surprised, because I knew that they weren't going to, but I can't believe that they couldn't capitalize on Wembley Stadium at all.
Here's my thing with Wembley, right? Their Wembley should have been treated like WrestleMania 3 for WWF. At the end of WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan by himself was in the ring. Mm-hmm. So what they did was capitalize on that and push and continued to push Hulk Hogan as the guy. Wembley had Adam Cole, MJF, Tony Khan, all cluttering the ring, right? And who is the attraction to come see AEW live in person? Who is the figurehead? Who is the ace? Who is the must see, most attractive character that you want on each poster, on a picture, on a toy, on a video game?
Is it
Now,
Tony Khan's Twitter?
see, that's what I'm saying. It's there wasn't a clear MJF is the guy. He's the most sought after athlete. Blah blah blah. He's everything. The world revolves around MJF, and it should have been that at Wembley. In my mind, I thought if MJF isn't holding the belt with confetti falling at the end of Wembley by himself in that ring, they will have dropped the biggest ball ever. And that's exactly what they did. And everything came crumbling down from the start of that show to the end of it. Because at what point did Andre and Hogan team up against the Islanders on the pre-show of WrestleMania 3? Right. And then when
somebody up, though,
I was going to say that would have been a match. But at what point did Vince come back out at the end of WrestleMania 3 and hold up everyone's arms that were involved in the main event and say, we're going to be here next year, fuck yeah. And they didn't, and they just did everything. AEW is the blueprint for failure in the wrestling business. Like the last 2 years of WCW,
I think a lot of their problem is the post-show media scrums.
Yes.
Tony Khan's Twitter.
Yes.
Chris Jericho's podcast.
God, yes.
The Being the Elite show.
Yeah, it's just
right?
Yeah, you're right.
Listen, they put on these TV shows. They put on pro wrestling shows. And WWE is now following in their footsteps with the post pay-per-view press conferences and shit.
Yeah.
Right? But they put on these shows and then they immediately go into the locker room, sit down at a table in front of cameras, camera phones, recorders, reporters, and tell us about how their show was bullshit. Right?
Yep.
Or Chris Jericho does an angle on TV on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later or whenever it drops, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure nobody listens to it either.
No.
But he goes right on his podcast, in some cases with the person he's doing the angle with, either just after the angle, when the feud just ended or whatever, and they talk about, what they did and what their plan was, right? And then you got Tony Khan on Twitter being like, well, technically we didn't do as bad as they did, because if they wouldn't have rolled out John Cena and The Undertaker, they would have done more bad than our bad. Right? So they can't wait to go on any type of media, social media, like I said, podcasts, press conferences, whatever, and expose literally what they just did.
Yeah.
And to wrestling fans like me who want to watch wrestling and let my disbelief get suspended, buy in, get invested, they immediately kill me. They kill me immediately. They shoot themselves right in the foot, because it's like, man, if you're not even going to try to let me buy into this before you tell me it's all bullshit, then what do I even fucking care for?
Right. Yep. I mean, yeah, you're right. All that stuff is just ass backwards when it comes to what you're doing. You know, it doesn't. Yeah, I've never liked any of that post media scrum thing. I don't buy. I don't care about a lot of that stuff.
Right.
The fans shouldn't care, and it's not the real media anyways.
Right.
So who are we? Like, is this a big circle jerk of internet nerds that have a website or a Twitter page dedicated to that? And I don't even know what that does for you except make more work for you to do. But it just doesn't help the business if they're not using those outlets to push angles and get characters over. What are you doing it for? You're doing it for yourself, your own ego. That's what they're doing it for. The elite TV show or a YouTube thing that they do that because they think they're funny, because they're nerds that have other nerd friends that want to do nerd wrestling stuff and then giggle about it like little girls in the corner talking about penises and have a little circle jerk about it. And that's it for just them. And that's okay.
And then, hold on before you go further. And then they take something that they did there, and now it's something that they're putting on TV, right? So me and you are looking at it going, why the fuck are the Bucks in the ring with these two guys that haven't been on TV for 7 months? And it's because they're working their own little gimmick with them on the YouTube show that nobody fucking knows about.
Nobody, yeah. And this is why their audience does not grow one bit. The audience this is what I'm saying, the 600 to 800 a week that they get on each show, and a lot of times less than that. Those are the diehards that do their weekly check-in on the Bucks to make sure everything's okay. And that's it. That's just their fans. And it's not growing. It's not getting better. There's no demand for it. If they stop traveling and doing TV, no one's setting seats on fire anywhere or rioting because they need AEW to come to their town. They'll just look through Twitter and say, I wonder what happened. And that's it. Right. If they were smart, they would do some sort of studio TV setup somewhere or a couple different spots that they can do it at and just do TV that way. It probably saved them a whole lot more money.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, right, walked out of a movie theater. I've never walked out of a Fast and the Furious movie and said, man, let me go online and see if Vin Diesel is talking about how he flipped that car.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. That's
like,
yes.
It's like they can't leave well enough alone. They don't know how to make anything for everyone. And they make it also feel like that if you're not in on what their little super secret top secret shit is, they don't want you.
Right. We're not with the cool kids. Right. Right.
But like, how do you have a national product that way? Like, if you
don't.
Even so, like, I'm watching their TV show right now, right? And a few minutes ago, they had the Bullet Club. They had Billy Gunn's kids, the Gun Club, out there against two guys that were dressed like the Beverly Brothers. I don't know who they are. And Jay White's in his corner, and Jay White's got MJF's belt, right? So I'm assuming he's had MJF's belt for the better part of a month. Right? Like, it's just like they've bastardized their world heavyweight champion so badly. Like, he's been completely castrated here.
Yep.
By the creative. And if you're not presenting, like, look at how WWE presents Roman Reigns.
Yep.
All right. Look at how, and even if you don't want to make it a WWE AEW thing, like look at how, you know, Impact or TNA, you know, presents you know, how they presented Josh Alexander
Yeah.
or how
Right.
they presented Moose.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like they they've got their world heavyweight champion doing bushwhacker shit.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That was my whole gripe about going into London, how they were dealing with MJF that whole way. That was my most interested. I was the most interested with how he was being treated. And the second this whole Adam Cole thing came up, and then he started tag teaming, and then when I heard that they were tag teaming, I just thought they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing.
You know, and now they're doing, I don't know if you're familiar with the storyline they're doing here with Jay White and the MJF and the Devil. And so basically they've got uh somebody wearing his devil mask
Yeah, I saw that.
who is like haunting the Bullet Club,
Mm,
right? But it's not MJF.
yeah.
So there's lots of rumors and speculation surrounding it. A lot of people are saying it's Adam Cole. There are some people that are half-ass convinced that it's CM Punk and this is just the greatest work of all time. Which, if it is,
Great.
fucking congratulations! Like, if you risked 3 months of ratings and revenue at buildings to get a storyline over and it actually works, congratulations.
Yeah.
uh there's also a lot of people out there that are saying that it's Jack Perry, which would be the most AEW thing ever, right?
It would.
To take the guy that got suspended from the pre-show for fucking with the top guy, bring him back, and immediately put him in a program with the current quote unquote top guy would just be the most fucking absurd thing you could possibly do. And I
Yes.
think Tony Khan would do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
so like I mean like they've if they can pull out something here that is creatively spectacular, that still remains to be seen. But I just, you know, like at what cost to
I don't
have?
know. I feel like this is Sting with the world title, and now we have a Black Scorpion situation.
Yes,
That's what I feel every time I see MJF, that and this, and I read about this scenario. I just feel like that is what we have. Like, I don't know. It's not good. It's
Mm.
yeah, Sting. Um, it's just yeah, it's just one of those not good situations. And again, they think it is good. They think it's not traditional wrestling. We're going to go a different route. You don't need to. You just need to do traditional wrestling correctly, and wrestling fans will take care of you from there. But they don't. So
How long do you think it'll be before contracts start expiring and we start hearing some stories?
I feel like in the next couple of years, I like 2024 and then 25, right? Because
Right.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, where are we at? 4 years with them, right?
Yep.
Most are what, 3 year things, 3 to 5.
I've
So
also though I have heard uh and not just on the internet, but you know, there are a lot of people who do say that nobody walks out the door there without signing some type of non-disclosure agreement,
I'm sure.
which I guess would make really good sense. But
Right.
the last thing I want to talk to you here is: have you been keeping up with Tony Khan's Twitter account?
Somewhat. I saw the madness that was Tuesday night or Wednesday, uh, but not since then, really. I saw like the shot at the bald guy, the shot at Cena and Taker being under $1 million. That was about it.
It's just like, if you read it, it's like, it reads like a manifesto of
God.
a schizophrenic serial killer. It'll be like, one thing will be like, they did this and they did that and fuck this guy and whatever, and then the next tweet is like, man, it's been great to have a working relationship and thank you to CMLL, and it's like,
He's making everybody look bad, like his side. He's making AEW. I mean, it's a joke there to work there now,
like, if he would have went on Twitter, like, a lot of his tweets, most of his tweets are perfect, what you would expect from a promoter. Check in tonight to AEW Collision, like,
Right.
shit like that, like, makes sense. I understand, but does he need to just stay the fuck away from a telephone?
Yeah, he really does. Someone should be watching him every day.
Like, there's no chance. Like, you see the Vince McMahon account every once in a while, it'd be like, happy birthday to my son-in-law, Triple H.
Right.
Good job, pal. You're 50 now.
Right.
Vince McMahon doesn't sit there and tweet.
No.
Like, that is somebody's entire job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is to be like, oh, put a tweet out for Vince. Like, that's
Yeah.
a whole job. And the
Yeah.
person probably works for 90 to 120 seconds.
I was gonna say somebody has a suit, a corporate bank account, spending, budget, and 6-figure deal to go write something professional and something from Vince McMahon,
every 3 months.
every 3 months.
Right.
Sign me up.
This guy is like 10 tweets a day.
Yeah.
Like, there should be somebody whose job it is to pretend that they're Tony Khan's Twitter.
Yeah. If he were smart in any way, he would have he would have wrestling minds around. Here's the other thing too, is like, these guys won't hire too many people that know more than them, when everybody that's been successful says the opposite. Surround yourself with people that know more than you on these particular areas. That's how you're going to learn all this stuff, right? Like, right. Remember when Vince started to take over WWF, like in 83, 84, after he bought in, he just started hiring people that knew about business.
Yep.
Right. And then he taught them the wrestling business. And then from there, they went and sold the wrestling business to become a bigger than just Northeast region, and these guys are doing the opposite, right? Where they're like, no, this is how we do it here. It's different. No, it's wrong. Like, right. That's the difference. It's like, you're not growing your audience. You're satisfying the same people that are coming in every week, and it's not growing.
And a lot of, just to what you were saying before about Vince, and even on the wrestling side, and what a lot of people don't realize is, like, they realize all the wrestling minds that he brought there to work with him.
Yeah.
But if you look at who those people were, right? And where they were from,
right,
where they worked. Pat Patterson started in Toronto, made his name in LA. He brought in somebody from the LA territory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry Briscoe, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Jack Lanza, Carolina. I think he worked Texas a lot. Yeah. He brought in guys from different territories and let them run his wrestling show. And then his wrestling show had all the different flavors. Right? Makes sense. He brought in wrestling people that knew more about wrestling than he knew about wrestling, and he listened to them. Right. How many finishes do you think Vince McMahon booked in 50 years? How many finishes do you think Pat Patterson booked in those 50 years?
Right.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a major disconnect there that Tony Khan doesn't let the people who should be making these types of decisions, these types of calls, make them. And I don't think he has a system there where he lets he allows a situation. How do I say this? I'm sorry, give me a second. He allows for the people in his locker room, talent wise, to disregard what the people who know better have to say.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got all these guys there that you should be learning from, that you should be, looking at for your advice and for your matches and your finishes. And how did you guys used to do this when you
Right.
did this
Right.
7 days a week and twice on Sunday? How did you do
Right.
something different each time?
Right.
And there are people there that don't care to ask these questions, that don't care to learn these answers. And then the guy in charge, turns his nose up to that and lets that be okay.
Right.
Right? There's
Yeah.
no, we'll go ask Arn. What did Arn say? And then you did the opposite of Arn said. Well, you're
Right.
fucking stupid. Guess what?
Yeah.
You're off TV next week.
Right.
It's
They don't do that. Right.
so. I
I know.
lost my whole train of thought on it here.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It makes you feel stupider when you have to think about how things are actually done there. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. So I don't get it. I don't know.
Well,
Every time Tony Khan hires somebody, it's hey, look at me and my new shiny toy. Isn't everybody happy for us?
right.
And then what difference? It doesn't move the needle because you don't know how to run a wrestling company the correct way. So it just fizzles away. It's just nothing.
Well, I will tell you one thing. As of, I believe this article is from yesterday. Okay. November 18th, the Kia Forum. Okay. That's
Oh
in
yeah.
LA. The Kia Forum, that's the LA Coliseum?
The Forum where the Lakers used to play.
Okay. The Great Western Forum.
Great Western Forum, right?
Okay. The Full Gear pay-per-view.
Yeah, November, right?
Yes. How many people should that building hold?
About 20,000.
Okay. It's set up for 7,392.
What? We're just working the back end.
And they've sold 5,615.
No.
Now they've still got a month,
No.
right? But I'm going to give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the actual capacity for that building. Now you got to
Yeah.
understand what the capacity isn't always the capacity for wrestling, because there is
No. Yeah, yeah. But
stage.
when the Lakers play, how many seats are in there?
Right.
It's a full I think they used to put for the Laker games like what, 18? I mean, I know they redid it. They've redone the entire new, like the forum's brand new basically.
All right. So when you Google the Kia Forum capacity,
Yeah.
first thing that comes up is that the forum has a capacity of 17,505. Okay.
Okay.
With more than 14,000 permanent custom Millennium chairs from the Irwin Seating Company.
Okay.
All right. So 14,000 of those chairs are stationary.
Right.
Okay. So they're not even setting up. They're setting up for a handful over half of what the permanent seating in that
Right.
building is.
Yes.
Okay. Why?
I have no idea why they do this. I don't know.
This is now 6 months of two dipshits. That's me and you, dipshit and
Yeah.
dipshit,
Hmm.
sitting here
Yeah.
doing a podcast, talking to a small, intimate group of people who like to listen to us or watch us. For 6 months, it's us wondering, why don't they maybe just run a smaller building, right? So
Right.
you and I are talking about it for 6 months, and then we've got a handful, more than a handful, we got a considerable amount of the dipshits listening to us saying, well, why don't they just book a smaller building, right? You're telling me that there's nobody there who gets a paycheck that says All Elite Wrestling, Jacksonville, Florida, in the corner of it, who's looking around at somebody and going, why don't we just book a smaller building?
How much money are they spending on black tarps to drape over everything?
Well, I'd like to think that they've bought it and it's paid for itself already.
I hope so.
Right?
I hope so.
Okay, like
Some tarp company over there is cashed in big time.
yeah. Like John Radio finally just bought himself 200 chairs.
Oh, good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which is when you're renting the chairs for a while,
Yes. Right. Right.
basically after the 2 or 3 times that you use the chairs that you own, they
Right.
pay for themselves.
Right. Correct. Yes.
So I'm assuming the black tarps have paid for themselves already,
God, I hope so.
right? Um,
I want to be. That's the job I want, because he'll be the most sought after person
sure.
in the company every week.
AEW keeps booking these buildings. You got job security, bro.
You have
You're gonna retire off of black tarps.
exactly. Las
Um,
Vegas got a new building, got a new stadium.
yeah,
I
better
got
go
the
take some
tarps, brother.
measurements. It's just why?
It
Why?
doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
How much? I wonder if I can see if I can Google what it cost to rent
Yes.
the Kia Forte.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Do that. That again, and you're thinking, and this is a pay-per-view, so they do that quarterly right now, right? Or a little bit more than quarterly.
Yeah.
Well,
You gotta like submit a whole then
okay.
interest form here. Rental
Course.
rates. Well, there's got to be. I'm going to do a little digging on this because listen, if it costs, let's say, just to make the math easy, okay,
Yeah.
let's say it costs $100,000 to rent this building,
Yeah.
okay, and then let's say 7,000. Let's say you're getting, let's call it $50 a ticket.
Yeah.
You're making, they're going to make $50 a ticket for 7,000 people. You've made $350,000 at the gate, which is great. Okay.
Right.
Which is great. Now minus the 100,000 that you're paying for the building.
Right.
Okay? That's $250,000.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. You
Right.
haven't paid a wrestler yet. You haven't paid a production crew yet.
The truck.
You haven't paid for the truck. You haven't put up a light. Okay.
Yep.
You haven't put a hot dog in a bun and sold it to a dipshit. You haven't.
We need pyro.
We need pyro. You haven't flown in any of your merch yet, or any of the Jackson boys' wives to sell them. Okay.
Right.
Right. But you've got $250,000 now. Okay. Let's say you rent a venue that fits only 7,000 1,000 people. Okay.
Right. Yes.
That venue only costs you $25,000, right?
I like that.
Okay. Or fuck it, let's call it 50, half. Half, half.
Right. Half.
All
Right.
right. So now you still sell your 7,000 tickets.
Right.
Okay. You still,
You're almost full.
right. You're
Right.
basically full.
Yeah.
So now your show looks good on TV.
And it's gonna sound better.
Right.
Yeah.
But now your $350,000
Right.
after you pay for the building is still $300,000.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like you made more money because you spent more. Like this is a businessman, right? A legitimate businessman.
This is all a big write-off. His whole fun and games. I bet he gave himself like, I'm gonna do this in 8 years, and then I'm gonna pull the plug.
Well, fuck. I hope he tells MJF first because the way he's,
He'll be long. He'll be
God,
be
for his
walking.
sake, I hope so. But I mean, like, I understand like making money isn't his primary concern, but isn't the point of being a good businessman to like make revenue and save money on
Yeah.
like it just must be nice to have the money to like not worry about how much money you lost by
That's
because of your
exactly
ego.
that's exactly it. And when people argue Tony Khan versus, Vince McMahon mentality and stuff like that, like they're completely opposite, because all of Vince's money for his entire family has been through promoting, and the WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it, and Tony Khan has not. He already had money when he started this. He didn't start from the ground up, so with wrestling. So
Well,
wrestling is not the
yes.
be all end all for him. It's not. If wrestling went
Well,
away tomorrow, he would be sad, and then he would, have a moment, and
that's his
then
dad's
he would
name.
be, yeah, but he would be back busy doing work that he already has besides wrestling.
However, you can tell the one thing that I will say about Tony Khan, obviously not knowing Tony Khan, so you can tell the man loves pro wrestling.
Absolutely.
He's got a
Yeah.
passion for it,
Right.
right? But he's
Absolutely.
he's got the budget. Like obviously he's got the money behind him, and he's grown up watching wrestling.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he bought into something where he saw, because he was a dirt sheet kid too.
Right.
So he actually saw how the
Right.
road was paved, how to model his business. Listen, in 1995, 3, 4, 5, 6, what everybody refers to the lean years.
Right.
Remember when they're taking the water coolers out of the tower,
Yeah.
pal?
Yeah.
Like Vince McMahon knew when to scale it down.
Right.
WCW knew when to scale down.
Yep.
The people aren't coming. Fuck the house shows. We'll be in center stage. We'll be in Disney. Vince McMahon was in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
People think it was a thing for the 70s and the 80s when the territories, when they were running high school gyms. The WWF was running high school gyms in the fucking 90s.
They did a Monday Night Raw in the Orange Show Pavilion in San Bernardino that only holds around 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I went to go watch house shows. There was a sea town. It was a sea town. San Bernardino was a sea town, and they did a Monday Night Raw from there at one point.
Right.
When they first started Monday Night Raw, because it was that bad.
You ever hear Jim Cornette talk about his first Monday Night Raw?
Yeah.
In upstate New York, and it was in a literal fucking barn.
Yep.
No air conditioning or heating or whatever the fuck. Like they knew when to scale it down.
Because he has endless money. He don't care.
Yeah, but still, you think like
I know.
Do they not get embarrassed by what's out there on the internet about them?
I would be. Because now
what do you think Vince McMahon would have done 10 years ago if somebody would have taken a picture of Monday Night Raw half full in a giant building?
Hmm.
Rhetorical question, because the answer is he'd have booked a smaller building and made that motherfucker look full.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would have came out here and ran the Westbury Music Fair like Impact Wrestling does.
Yeah.
Up 700 people. It'll look good on TV.
Yep.
But
What was the building they used to run where I think Sean and Hunter did the fake title the European title change on Christmas? It's in Boston. ROH used to run. We ran there in ROH. It's in Boston somewhere. Anyways, that building holds. They used to do Monday Night Raw there. That small, like that. We did a pay-per-view there for Ring of Honor one time, and it was the building that you can. It was all lit up all the way around. Anyways, it was like a Christmas show for Monday Night Raw. They did the thing where Triple H had to wrestle Shawn Michaels for the European belt
title.
Yeah,
And they did
Owen.
the crisscross spot.
Yes, that building was Monday Night Raw, but Ring of Honor used to run that,
right?
You know, and it was a small 2,000 seat building. It was nice, but it looked packed because I remember watching that, and I remember thinking it's so lit up, like the whole building, you can see it, even to the ceiling, and it was full, but it was small.
I grew up thinking the Mid-Hudson Civic Center was a big building.
Yeah, right.
I had no idea. There's an indie. What is it? NEW runs there.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought it was a fucking giant building because the WWF went there, and it had a name. It was a civic center.
Civic center, right? Sounded good. Sounded good and looked good. It's all that matters.
What was the one that they used to do in Virginia? God damn, I can't remember what it was now. But they ran all of these small buildings that, as far as we knew,
they were huge.
Because they were full
and they were lit up,
loud. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, this episode was full. It was loud. It was long, and I think it was a good one. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot done.
We got a lot done. We covered a lot of things here tonight. Anything else you want to talk? Jesus, the main event of this collision was Claudio and Yuta versus Starks and Big Bill.
Wow. Brian and Andrade
opened the show.
Were not opened,
and then they had obviously 24 hours behind. But I also started it kind of right around when we started recording. So I think they had Miro and Action Andretti in the ring for the 9 o'clock hour.
Ooh.
And the main event here is Claudio and Yuta versus Starks and Big Bill, which good for Starks and Big Bill giving them the push. But
that quarter hour is going to drop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be interested to see these ratings next week.
Yeah.
Any final oh Jesus, that was terrible. Any final thoughts here?
No, maybe next week we can look into those quarter hours because I'm real curious on how that show, the flow of that went.
Yeah. Me too. Cesaro looks like he hasn't seen a tanning bed in about a month. Let's be honest, especially this Big Bill motherfucker is brown.
Yeah.
Right? He's super tan. Ricky Starks is, got some natural.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's always in good shape and like tanned up, so he's good.
Yeah, I don't know if he's half black or if he's Hispanic or what he is, but he's always got color. And
yeah,
Cesaro just looks see-through.
Yeah.
All right, Rick. Anything else?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, so you know what's next, right?
Yep.
Motherfluxxers, thanks for joining us. I'm going to run the gimmick, and we will catch y'all next week.